Dear students of class 10A and 10B, welcome to my history class. Today's points, as I mentioned in the board, please look at it. First, here are some points I have mentioned in the board, please look at it. The same lesson number 3, the moderates. Point number 1, Western education. 2, the railway service. 3, the phase of moderate leaders. 4, prominent moderate leaders. 5, British interest in Indian culture and heritage. These are the following points I am going to explain. Now, what is Western education? Western education is an educative system of England or abroad, given new outlook in culture, in culture, in style. Not only provides education, value of education, but it also provides morality, sense of responsibilities, duties, and of course, confidence. So this is Western education. This Western education was a system, those who received it, they gain sound knowledge in language English. That means medium of instruction is English, and this Western education made Indian people to be well educated, well behaved, just like the Britishers. They followed the pursued the technique and style of the Britishers, and ultimately that wave came in the field of education. A number of educational institutions were established in our country, India, following the guidelines of the British educationists. And ultimately, many Indians received Western education. The early nationalists who received Western education, they were Dadabhai Naoroji, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Surendranath Banerjee, Badruddin Taibji, Firoz Mehta, and of course Ramesh Chandra Datta, and they, Motilal Bose, Raja Madan Rao, they all dedicated their lives for the cause of country's freedom. They also gave a shape of combined efforts so that they can start agitation movement in a legitimate way against the British government. Next point, the railway service. What is the railway? The railway system had effectively brought people from different regions of India together. The railway service helped the Indians. Although it was a great discovery of the British, the railway system encouraged not only Indian traders and Indian, rich people, but also encouraged trade and commerce for the other group of people. It provided employment to many people. Similarly, railway system also helped the nation communicate and grow closer. That's why the British also introduced good network of telegraph. That telegraph system also brought people closer, and people started communicating their messages through railway, through telegraph as smoothly as possible. Professionals, educationists, teachers, journalists, students, moreover, educated people, intellectuals were benefited with this system. They were benefited with Western education. They were benefited with good network, means railways network, good mode of communication, means railway and telegraph. That's why there formed a respect in the minds of Indian educated people and faith on the British. They thought that British rule was good for them. It reflects their reasons for assuming British rule in India had positive effects and should be allowed to continue with some modifications. They thought that British rule was good for them, but at the same time, some modification was required. Now, Britishers would be able to modify it, but what was required most was a polite attitude towards them, because the British policy, the British culture, the British education learned them to be polite, not to be impolite, but to be polite and to pray in a legitimate way, so that the British could understand that they belong to, you know, intellectual groups who receive Western education. So their behavior would attract the Britishers to receive, to accept their demands. That's why most of the nationalists who played an important role during the first half of Indian national movement, means the early nationalists wanted the best for the nation, which is why they joined political forum. They also strongly supported supported the foundation of a new political organization, an all Indian political organization, the Indian National Congress, and this group of people were known as moderates. Moderate leaders, opened the door to talk to the Britishers in a legitimate way, in mild language, and they favored the Western educational system, and they have respect for Western educative system. They have respect for British culture, and that's why they believed that the British rule in India would be good for them. Now, next point: who were the prominent leaders, prominent moderate leaders? The prominent moderate leaders were, they were, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Surendranath Banerjee, W.C. Banerjee, Sumesh Chandra Banerjee, Yosam Mehta, S. Subramanian Iyer, R.C. Datta, Raja Madhav Rao, Motilal Ghosh, they were all prominent leaders of moderate groups. Initially, there was no Dukhism. They all started working on behalf of our country's freedom, on behalf of the repressive policies have been framing from time to time against the Indians in order to make the British stop passing this kind of unjust laws. They started working, and they started organizing themselves, and they started organizing a number of educations movements against the British government. That's why some, they all, not only they came from different professions, they came from law profession, they came from teaching profession, they came from journalism profession, they came from administration. They dedicated their lives for the cause of country's freedom, and they also made it sure that Indians and their interests could be protected, safeguarded, uh, only because of the British fair policy and justice they had. They believed on the British fair play and justice. That's why they knew that the British could not play any negative role against the Indians, but always they would play a positive role in favor of the Indians. That's why they always left positive effects in all respect, and always, they always produce their demands in a very legitimate way and in a very mild language before the British. Now, these are the important points. Another point that is very important is British interest in India culture and heritage. Now, why did the British show interest for Indian cultural heritage? The British had interest for Indian cultural heritage because the British realized that India was a country having old, civilized, old civilization and old cultural atmosphere. so the glory of Indians already have gone, no longer does the last years, according to some Britishers. They believe that, according to some Britishers, the glory of the past glory of India was gone. That's why it should be revived. The image of the Indian should be restored. The image and dignity of the Indian should be restored only because of the people people of Western culture, people of Western temperament, who received Western education and complete human beings, complete Britishers. They, although they were Indians, but in culture, in language, in speaking style, they followed the technique and method of the Britishers, and they almost had become Britishers. That's why the Britishers had great faith on this group of people. They were known as Bengali intelligentsia. This group of people, these intellectuals, also had great faith on the Britishers. That's why British thought that Indian past glory and image should be revived, should be re-established, should be regained. And how was it possible? Because of the positive role of the, this Bengali intelligence, this Bengali educated people, English educated people, who could protect it, who could restore the former glory and image of the Indians through their writings, through their positive thinking and outlook. As a result, the British came forward in order to cooperate with this group of people by sanctioning money for setting up a number of schools, number of colleges, for for the growth and development of Indian education. And of course, they also started appointing a number of English educated people in their administration as officials, as officials. And at the same time, the British uh, the British required cooperation of the highly qualified Indians. The British required cooperation from the highly qualified Indians in respect of passing any type of laws. Initially, they decided to consult Indian educated people, Bengali intelligence, Bengali intellectuals before passing any law, so that the laws would be accepted by the Indians. But in course of time, they changed their policy and they did not allow the Indians to be a part of their discussion, since many Indian educated people left British jobs, British educational institutions at the time when there was a division came in the system of Indian National Congress. Two Congress was divided into two. We shall discuss. We will discuss. We will learn in detail form when we shall start teaching the next lesson. The division came in the structure of the Indian National Congress. One group was known as early nationalist and another one was known as assertive nationalist. Both of their ideologies also were quite different than that of each other. The early nationalists had great faith for British fair play and justice. They had great respect for the Britishers. They believed that the demand should be produced in a legitimate way, in polite form. But on the other hand, the assertive nationalists realized that the British would never accept any demand unless they would become violent, because the British knew only the language of violence. That's why they would have to be violent. And difference, this this difference between the two wings of the Congress, the early nationalists and assertive nationalists, you know, uh, left vivid impressions among the Indians. Ultimately, the British decided to give some concessions to the early nationalists, since they had great faith on the Britishers, in order to show the assertive nationalists that what method and technique they had adopted was against them. That's why the British did not give any concession to the assertive nationalists but to the early nationalists. So these are the points, my dear students, for today's discussion. I explained. If you have any problem and difficulty regarding these points, please let me know. I shall clarify you in live class. Thank you. Thank you so much.